So dumb.
So dumb.
So dumb.
All right, Helen, start.
All right. Welcome to Sibs Read Smut podcast. Oh, there she is. Welcome to the pod, truly. I'm Helen. Who are you?
I'm Ned.
Ned! Oh my God.
Surprise.
Thank you for coming this week. I was worried. This is a podcast where we read, rate, and review, and sometimes tell jokes about while discussing our favorite books, and sometimes yours, but mostly ours. If you have suggestions and questions for future books that you want us to read, or feedback for us in general about how cute we are, you can reach out to us on the socials, Insta and TikTok on @SibsReadSmut, or an email at sibsreadsmut@gmail. Don't forget it.
.com.
.com. We're in the .com era, all right? On today's podcast, we'll be discussing The Idea of You by Robinne Lee, right?
Yes. Correct.
What if I just had the wrong book totally? I would like show up to the wrong week.
Whoopsie.
All right. Spoiler alert. And this is especially important today. Do not forget this. Spoiler alert. We talk about these books start to finish, including the ending. And dun, 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 today's ending will have a lot to discuss, and we will be discussing it. So beginnings, ends, twists, all fair game. If you haven't read the book, hit pause, go listen. We are not going to wait. Sorry, but you can pause. And now off we go. Ned is going to read us a brief summary of the book that he wrote himself.
Yes, penned by me 5 minutes ago while watching Helen actually type it on screen.
Ned, don't give away the secret.
Oh, sorry. The secret sauce.
The sausage getting made
There's a lot of sausage getting made in this book.
Oh my God.
All right. The Idea of You by Robinne Lee. As a massive boy band fan, this book was everything I dreamed of and more.
Oh, I knew it. I knew you'd love it.
My friends even called me Joe Jonas behind my back.
Oh, they did? Oh my God, that's crazy.
In this book, basically the story of my life, we meet Hayes and Celine in the basement of the Mandalay Bay. Hayes is about to perform a sold-out show with his band August Moon. Oh, man. And Celine is there with Hayes' #1 superfan, her 12-year-old daughter, Isabel. They meet, they flirt, they decide to give it a go, secretly at first, but then not so secret. Will they or won't they? You will not believe how this one ends.
Oh my God. I think
There is a lot in this book. Do you have any first impressions right off the bat?
So I read this book, peak 2020, peak COVID. I was obsessed. I finished it in a day. It was I don't think it was even on audio yet. I read it on my Kindle. I have like a very specific memory of like not leaving the couch and listening to this or reading this book in one day. I loved it. Loved it. Told everyone I knew and their moms to read it. And then reading it the second time, I was like, oh, okay. It just didn't have the same, it didn't hit the same it did the first time for me. And then like looking online, and we'll get there, but like there is a lot of that people have to say about the ending. And does this fit into the romance genre? That's the question.
That's interesting because there's a lot of tropes in here, and playing with tropes a little bit too. But off the bat for me, the cover was interesting because it's a lady with sunglasses on, and she looks like she's got a secret. And she does.
She does have a secret. And I noticed for the first time today, looking at that cover, if you look in the reflection of her sunglasses, there's a man standing there in boots with a guitar case.
Ooh, I did not see that. Let's
listen. I'm a detail gal, all right? So it does not surprise
That's
me.
what everyone says about you, Helen.
She loves a good detail. Yeah.
The Idea of You.
You're going to
I'm
find
looking
it
up.
now.
I want to see.
It's there. I promise. I'm not making it up. I would never.
Ooh, yeah. Okay. Interesting. That makes it even more interesting of a cover. She looks very debonair.
She does. We have to talk at some point we don't have to talk about it now, but at some point too, they made this into a movie, and Anne Hathaway played Soline.
Well, I think the movie is coming out this year or came out last year.
Oh, it's out. I've seen it.
Well, la-dee-da.
I watched it. I saw it, and I hated it. Oh, I didn't hate it. It was fine. They changed the ending in the movie.
Oh, I bet. The and secrets. We're gonna hold on to the ending for a while yet. So
yeah,
that, you guys can catch up.
You haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, but some other interesting things about this book, just off the bat too, which I don't know if I loved. I don't know if I loved it. Was it's single perspective, told only from Soline's point of view. Mm-hmm. And it's very vignette-y. All the chapters are different cities that they visit each other in. Mm-hmm. So there's, and obviously there's a through line of story throughout, but it was very episodic in how it was presented, which, I generally don't love that a whole lot. And in here it was done okay, but it wasn't. Mm-hmm. It didn't blow my socks off. And but this is also Lee's first novel. She had
that impressed me. I thought that this
absolutely
was exceptionally well written and like pulls you in really quickly. I didn't mind the vignette style. Oftentimes it would be like 3 weeks later, I flew out to the south of France to visit him, and I missed him every day of that 3 weeks. But that's like the only thing they cover during that time. They'll like occasionally fill you in a little bit on like something big if you missed it
in between them meeting.
But I felt like it kept the story moving, and Robin's the way that she wrote, especially this being her first novel, phenomenal, really well written.
Agreed.
I was impressed. Yeah.
Well, and just as a sausage making note, my phone constantly wanted to change haze to hates every time in my notes. So it was like hates really gets up in her, and it's like hates really, it's like it was. Some of these notes made me laugh rereading them and correcting it because it was like hey, hates gets up in it.
Okay,
it was the and just as a general note too, on our end of show smutometer ranking, there was a fair amount of sex in here. I mean, there are a lot of sexy chapters. But they're not as intricate as we're used to in some of the other authors that we've read. They're not as lengthy, they're not like acrobatically having sex with each other. It's more like, I don't know. It's by no means tame, but it is also
less graphic.
It's not as graphic. I mean, they say some graphic things, but like I just didn't feel like it was as graphic as some of the. I mean, certainly not pucking around, but like even El Kennedy or whatever else it's not as like action oriented as some of the other books that we've read, which is not a strike against it, and that's neither a positive or a negative. It's just something unique about this book. From my perspective, and it was I was like, okay, interesting.
What did I give it? Did I call it medium plus, or
I think you called this one medium plus.
Do you still think that holds, or do you think it because the chapters were less explicit?
I would say on the smutometer ranking, I'd probably give it a solid medium. Because but medium plus kind of fits too because there's a lot of them. While they're not as explicit and as lengthy as some of the other ones, they do fuck in almost every other chapter of this book, if not every chapter. It's about their love affair. Maybe we should talk about the story a little bit, Helen, and actually let these motherfuckers know what it's about.
Yes.
You smutters.
Well, so Soline is a single mom, divorced, and she gets roped into taking her daughter and her daughter's friends to an August Moon concert. This also, just to set the scene, is supposedly, and there's debate about this, One Direction fan fiction. So a lot of people say that Hayes is supposed to be Harry Styles, and people don't venture from that very much. Like, it's pretty much like this is One Direction Harry Styles fan fiction.
Do I know who that is?
You know who Harry Styles is. Shut up. I'm not even having this conversation.
I don't even know. I don't know what he looks like. Harry
Shut up. I can't even deal with
Styles.
You. You didn't do your research on this to know and pretend like you know who One Direction is.
Yeah. Oh, I even said that on the last podcast. I compared him to them. Okay. I've seen that guy before.
Oh my God, Ned. Oh, you're throwing me off my game. Okay, so, jeez, I'm so upset that you don't know who Harry Styles is.
I'm laughing so hard my camera's shaking.
Okay, shut up, Ned. I can't even deal with you. Just secretly Google this stuff and pretend like you knew who he was all along. My God. So Len is like, her husband is supposed to take their daughter and these girls to this August Moon concert in Vegas.
Kind of a big dickhead, by the way, too.
Yeah, the ex-husband sucks. And so he's like, well, I guess I can't go. Here's the tickets, behind the scenes package, money, expensive tickets. Like, you take the girls, they'll go. And so Solène is 39 years old. She is French. And so she is very chic. And
well, she's born to French parents, but she's born American.
To French parents. And she is a very chic person. She owns an art gallery with her friend, and she like loves contemporary art. So she's just beautiful. I imagine her as like this like tall, slim waif of a woman wearing sunglasses all the time, like the girl on the cover. And anyway, so her husband makes her take the girls. They go to this like meet and greet with August Moon prior to the concert, and it's just like so One Direction. Like go into this meet and greet, and these like 5 like young strapping cute boys come in. It's all these like teen girls like, oh my God. And then they're like not flirting in like a sexy way, but like, like being really charming with all the young girls, and like this is our fan base. And so then Hayes sees Solène. They're in a photo together, and like
my note about this is Hayes is the one she's gonna cougar hunt.
Oh, 100%. and he cougar hunts her. To be clear,
yeah, well,
sort of,
kind of. I mean, she immediately upon seeing them, she goes, the first time I saw them, they looked like young virile pogo sticks, and I'm like, she's immediately thinking she wants to sit on his face, like these are like direct quotes from her. Yeah,
I know she said that, but I read that as like they were like bouncing around, like jumping around. Like if you've ever seen the One Direction like tour film, like that's what I'm envisioning is just like these young guys like jumping on each other and like playing Frogger.
They're two separate statements. They're not.
Well, you took it sexual immediately, and I was just like, oh, these young boys playing around, how fun.
Well, they're 20. They're 20. They're not 20.
I'm sure that they range anywhere from like 18 to 21 or whatever.
Yeah, but do you think that in general the overarching storyline, it immediately reminded me of Ted Lasso with Rebecca sleeping with Sam and Nora finds out, but like Nora is actually happy for Rebecca smushing butts with Sam in season 2. They
not even a little bit. That even crossed
she's
my
an
mind.
Older team owner. He's a young player. I understand
that. I guess there's not a lot of like women. That's actually not true. I actually feel like the trope's not out of this realm. So, but I think if we're comparing it to anything, there's a very real life story where like Harry Styles starts dating is still dating. I need to find out Olivia Munn, and like this story came out I think before he started dating Olivia Munn, who's older, and there was just all of this like back and forth. I think, Olivia Munn was dating the Ted Lasso guy, right?
No.
I thought Olivia Munn was married to what's his name?
Olivia Wilde was married to Jason Sudeikis. Olivia Munn was dating Aaron Rodgers.
Ew.
Yeah, I don't care about Harry Styles. Like, let's just not talk about him anymore.
Olivia Wilde.
Yeah, Olivia Wilde. Yeah, because she made some movie with him, and that's who she cheated on Jason Sudeikis with. Thank
you. Okay, so I was right. I was just saying the wrong Olivia. So it was Olivia Wilde, and okay, I fact checked myself. So they were romantically linked from 2020 until 2022, and so so they've been broken up for a while. But it's like older woman, has like a life and a family, and then she leaves that. Well, she doesn't leave it, but like then she starts number 2 already.
Yeah,
goodness gracious!
You talking about One Direction and Harry Styles is leading me to drink.
You texted me earlier today. You were like, "Oof, I finished. I was like, all right.
Yeah. So let's go. Let's get through some of the
That's
story.
what I'm going to compare it to is Olivia Wilde and Harry Styles, which is very true life, and I think a much better link to this storyline.
That's literally the story. I mean,
I know, but this came out before that happened. It's not like the book was written after this. This book was written before Olivia Wilde and Harry Styles happened.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so Celine's 3 years celibate.
Solène
has 3 years celibate, and she, by choice, and she, she wants to bone down when this 20-year-old winks at her in line, and she starts getting super horny with the banter. The banter was okay. I mean, the flirtiness and whatever was fine. It was, especially for a first-time writer, I was like, okay. I think listening to it over reading it, I think a lot of the voices sounded similar to me.
Yeah.
Because like some of the voice actors, and especially the books that are dual perspective, have different actors doing both voices. That was a little. I mean, yes, he has an English accent and whatever else, but like, I don't know, it felt drier to me than some of the other banter that we've listened to, especially in some dual perspective ones. But yeah, I don't know. You think that they weren't? She wasn't getting horny off the bat, but I think she was.
I think that he was flirting with her pretty like clearly, and I think she was surprised that she was like, "Oh, he's flirting with me, but like this can't be real." And so she was open to it and was like flirting back in a way, but she was kind of surprised at herself for doing that, knowing that she'd been celibate for 3 years and like she had gone on dates, but never like things always got cut off before they actually like became intimate. So she knows that she's like will clam up and not be good. And so she's actually like
clam down.
Clam up. Yeah. Now she's ready to clam down. So but I think she's like, so she surprises herself with being like engaging and flirting with this like young buck. And so I don't know. I read it as very much that she was surprised by it. And so they flirt. He figures out that she owns like an art gallery and where it is. And he pursues her. So they leave that night and he said something like, want to meet up after. And or they did meet up. They like got backstage passes for after. And so they like continued to talk.
Yeah, he sent the security guys out to grab her and the girls, because she was there with her daughter Isabel and two other of her friends.
Yeah.
And they all went backstage and they all
this is gonna change our lives.
To meet the band and whatever. And Hayes was also Isabel, her Celine's daughter. It was her favorite. But the worm reminded me of your wedding. They did a worm off at the concert party.
Shout
or whatever.
out to Liza.
Yeah, fucking worming off on the floor. That was funny.
Liza actually did not do the worm at my wedding because she was 8 months pregnant.
Yeah, well, Marty and one of Mom's friends did it at the wedding. Maybe it was family.
That was during Shout.
Yeah, well, it was
get
during
down low
one song.
They do the dead bug.
Yeah. So they flirt a little bit. There's busy schedule, and they're like trying to meet up and to have like lunch or something. And
he pursues her. He gets her number. He goes online. He finds her art place and then he calls her, and so then it takes him a while to get to a first date. She doesn't really want to go because she's uncertain about it all. That's how I read it. And then they finally go on their first date, and then I don't think there's much to talk about.
the constant theme throughout this entire book is her like fretting about the age gap. I mean, that's why the single perspective to me is like drags, is because we're just hearing her internal thoughts the whole time. And it's, oh my God, he's so young. Oh my God, what if he wants to have kids? Oh my God, blah, 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 blah.
He does reveal that he lost his virginity to an older woman.
Yeah.
That was like his, like, it's fine. I've been with older women before. When I was 14, I fucked a 19-year-old or 16,
18 or 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he was 14. It was statutory rape, pretty much.
Yeah. And she said that,
and it was his best friend's older sister too.
Yeah,
which is kind of skeevy.
Wasn't great.
And do you think him and Oliver fucked at some point? That's why they're very weird together with each other.
No.
Do you think they had a sexual past with each other?
Maybe. I guess
That's
I
why
hadn't
Oliver was
considered
getting
it.
like jelly throughout. I mean, he was pissy. He was pissy about him screwing his sister, but I think there was an underlying, like, maybe they touched tips or something at some point.
Maybe.
And had some kind of past. But that first date between them, that first lunch, she was like, "Oh, little boy, if I could show you the things I know," and I was kind of like, "Ew."
Ew.
I'm like, ew. And she sniffs him at lunch for the first time.
No, she does not.
Oh yeah, she sniffs him at lunch. Cedar and sandalwood is what she says, and
I've never noticed that in any of these books.
There's 4 more sniffings throughout. I did not clock them. But I distinctly remember her sniffing him a couple more times throughout this book. And she doesn't tell Isabel about the lunch date. I mean, like and half of this book is her wringing her hands about telling her daughter that she's fucking her idol. And it's like, that was a little tiresome as well. I would have loved to have seen a couple chapters from Hayes' perspective, even if it wasn't a straight back and forth chapter by chapter, Hayes, then Celine. I think it would have been nice to have a little bit broken up and get his perspective a little bit somewhere in here to kind of figure out where he's coming from in some of this, because the last 45 minutes of the entire book is them just crying. It's like them just crying to each other and listening to someone read crying constantly was tiresome. Now they're dealing with some real emotions and they're dealing with some real stuff, but just as a audiobook listener, I'm like, ugh. Oh my God, please don't go. I'm like, ugh, yuck.
You're up next for being an audiobook narrator.
So they pretty much from after this first lunch date, which is like, it's like LA, Vegas, LA, and then they just jet set around the world. And one thing, much like Broken French, I think that Lee does very well is she paints the scenes. And she's hella up on the art, which was very interesting to read about, and the scenery, and she can paint a tableau of the places that they visit. And I thought that was very well done. It was very intricate.
You feel like you're there.
Yeah. It was a lot. And so he tries to convince her to like come on the road and like link up with their schedules. And she has some art event in New York, so they finally decide to meet up again, and they're polite eye fucking with like 50 people around, and they're like trying to she's like, "You're a major star, like we kind of need to keep this secret, whatever." And it was one of the lines
they do for a little bit.
Yeah, they do for a little bit. One of the lines in there that I wrote down, I was like, screaming. He's like, there's so many screaming little girls, and Celine was like, I never was, and he's like, we'll have to change that, and I'm like,
change that. I was wondering, that stood out to me when I was reading, and I was like, whoa, my goodness,
okay. and then he's like, or she says, you're like Rapunzel, stuck in a hotel because of roving bands of tween succubi. That's my line, not theirs. But she does call him Rapunzel, which I thought was pretty funny. And then she kisses him first at about 13% in, and it was like, cause his mouth, like she's like, the shape of his mouth is so erotic, and like his lips and tongue and whatever. And I'm like, okay, all right, supple tongue, yuck.
Okay.
Causes a typhoon in her pants with her hand, with his hand slightly up her skirt. Time to go to the room.
Ned Dunn.
Your face.
Ned. Your face. Gross. She did get very wet.
And she's making up all these rules, like, we will not sleep with each other this first night. We will not, we'll fool around, but you won't spend the night. Yeah. And all this stuff. And it's like, come on.
Every rule is broken.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
So 17% in, I called it fully clothed finger flicking. And she has a blackout orgasm. And then she has like a mini freak out after the
finger
blasting.
flick and fancy free.
Yeah, that's a good one, Helen. You should start naming the chapters.
No, but I'll rename them once you name them.
Yeah. And then she has a mini freak out. Like she's like
typical.
But he's like, we need to meet again because you need to return the favor. And it's like, okay. And daughter wants her to be happy, but not fuck her crush. I don't even know.
They don't. So New York is when they start, like, they have their first sleep or no, they don't fuck until south of France, right?
Yeah,
but she doesn't tell the daughter until well after even France, I think. So they go to the south of France after, like, that's like their next meetup. And
that guy just called it French F Shack.
The French F Shack.
21% French kissy nippy is what I called that one. Lots of nipple play.
Yeah. Accurate. And the daughter, Isabel, calls her like mid flirt, like mid sesh, to be like, I got my period and dad doesn't know what's going on and I want you to come home and be with me. And then she starts to feel really guilty again. And that ends it, right? I think they go to dinner or something. Like, they don't carry on in the moment. And then they come back to it later. And
well, I think they get some kind of maybe it was later on where it was later because they were on a boat or whatever, and the paps catch them out.
Yes.
But
they do a lot of like, you go in first and then I'll go in later, and then there's a lot of like maneuvering.
25% in, like. They go out, they have a little date, they come back. They're, that he could actually sneak out a little bit in France for whatever reason. In every other city, like, he's mobbed, but like apparently in France, they're too aloof. But 25% in, hotel conolingus flyby. I don't know what the female version of butt to nut licking would be, but but I called it fudge factory to taco stand.
Oh my God.
Helen's face is great. And then she's tasting herself, as usual.
As usual. Oh, Ned.
And then she keeps comparing his skin to baby's skin, which I was just like, she might have a complex about sleeping with younger dudes. Like, this is a little weird. And then she's like, he's like mid blowjob, and she's like, "What's your middle name?"
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
he's like, "Is that a prerequisite for doing this?"
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Philip," and she's like, "That's such a British middle name." I can taste that.
Oh God,
you taste like a Philip.
Yeah, and then the continuation of the sex, like that's a long one. Continuation of the previous sex scene. But he did her so good she felt like a virgin again. I'm like, okay. And then postcoital gum, which is a callback throughout the book, where they're like, hey, do you sorry, I don't have a cigarette right now, but like, how about some gum? And they constantly brought it up throughout, which also was a little weird when he offered the daughter gum at one point. I was like, okay, guys, this is like your sex joke, and now you're making it with her 13-year-old. Well, because she turns 13 during the book,
a significant event.
Yeah. And Celine's friend at the gallery like finally brings up the fact that there's like, as I said here, there's poon available for slapping everywhere for a 20-year-old boy band star, and she like gets sick and goes and like throws up immediately in their offices
because she thinks he's cheating.
No, I think she was like, she just didn't really think about the fact that he was still probably fucking other people like on the road. And she's like, he starts like saying like, I have feelings for you. And she's like, don't even start that conversation until you stop sleeping with everybody else. Cause I want to say the first,
I thought he wasn't.
No, the first month or two, he was still seeing other people for sure.
I thought he was just obsessed with Solène.
No. And then the ex Daniel sees him at a restaurant back in LA finally.
Yeah.
And like he's too distracted and doesn't realize like, oh, they're making goo goo eyes at each other.
Mm-hmm. Well, Solen and Daniel are the ex are having lunch to talk
Yeah.
about the daughter, and the boy band is also there. And so but then their friend, there was like a friend of Daniel and Solen who came over and said something, and then later saw Solen and was like, "Are you fucking that boy from the boy?" Like saw the interaction between
from the
Solen.
restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well,
she was like,
because one of their mutual friends saw them in the Hamptons and told somebody else, and was like, and then he came back to them, was like, is it true? Are you having sex with this child?
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, oh, okay. And I was like, the age disparity thing, I think they really beat that dead horse throughout this entire book, a lot. But
yeah.
do you think if it was reversed, it would have been as creepy? Or as misconstrued, maybe, as like the way that she was treating it throughout this book? Because I'm like, that's not that big of a deal to me. Male, female, or female, male. Like,
yeah, I almost get the creeps more if it would have been like a 40-year-old man fucking a 20-year-old girl, just because then it feels like he's...
Mr. Masters was pretty much that. I mean, he's 40 and she was 20, 24, 25.
I know, but even like 20, like not even 21. I don't love it in general, but also like, I don't know, it feels skeezy when it's the man fucking a younger woman, of like, he's taking advantage of her, like he's trying to, like, she's, I don't know, with her.
So Celine's finding herself in an older dude is just fucking a younger woman. Like, I don't know.
Not just fucking younger women, but like trying to, like, I don't know, the power dynamic of male female in general is different.
I mean, arguably she could be grooming him, but that, what, I don't know. I didn't in my mind make a distinction. I put that question at the end of my thing so we could talk about it at the end. But this seems like a great time to bring it up right now.
Yeah, but there's not a huge difference, but
I didn't come up with a good answer to it. Is my point, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I think love is love. I don't know. I think if they really wanted to be in a relationship, they could absolutely make it work. Like, I don't think that the age difference is 100% a deal breaker.
Yeah. Well, and right here, like 25% in, I even wrote down in my notes, they try to define the parameters of their relationship while they're in LA. Like, he meets her again. They go to, like, he meets her in the hotel or something later on. And it's like, the agreement they come to is pretty much like, we'll bang when we see each other, and then we're not together when we're not together. And he's like, he doesn't want to mislead her, and so he's being upfront and honest about that. Mm-hmm. And then 31% in, the rockstar fuckathon, he's like 20, so his dick is just permanently hard, and they're just like bang 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 bang. Mm-hmm. And he's I wrote down, he's just destroying those geriatric hips, strapping on condom after condom. Don't even joke about love me while you're sleeping with other people. I was like, that's probably a good rule.
Yeah.
And then
also, she's only like a year or two older than I am.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she turns 40 during the book. Because she has a birthday. Oh, and one of my other favorite lines from right around here was, his voice was gravelly, like he'd been up eating pussy until 4 a.m., which he had
gross.
been.
Quelle surprise.
And then she keeps lying to Isabel about boning her crush, which I'm like, this is one of those things where it's like, you could have saved a lot of the heartache and everything else. Well, no, you couldn't have, because the internet was still going to be fucking shitty to them and their relationship and about her and everything else.
Like Harry and Olivia.
But he also broke up a fucking marriage too, which is shitty.
Harry, yeah.
Yeah. But in this case, it was like, if she would have told the kid at any point before things got super serious, the kid could have prepared a little bit better for this. And she might have been pissed in the short term, but she would have seen her mom be happy for longer and could have been a little bit more well adjusted. And arguably, the mom is an idiot for not getting her into therapy right fucking away.
Yeah.
It's like at some point she's like, I don't know. One of the other moms from the school comes over when Isabel was having a really bad time, and the news broke and everyone knew, and was like, hey, has she seen anybody? And she's like, in her head, she's like, I don't know what that would say about our family if I had to send my daughter for therapy about the boy I was fucking. And it's like, well, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. Like if you have that big of a problem with it internally, then you're doing something wrong. And that was a kind of thing throughout this entire book, where it's like, if you're having this many misgivings about what you're doing, then you're probably not doing the right thing.
And it's not that it was like an inherently bad thing. Like like you said, like neither one was married. There actually was like an ability, I think, to tell the story in a way of like, she's allowed to have positively, like of saying like she's allowed to like find herself and have sex, like really embracing that part of herself. But I mean, I think that the daughter probably should have been in therapy, like after the divorce, and like there's like a lot of things. She was.
I think she did see somebody for a little bit after the divorce, but it was 3 years. It was 3 years before. Yeah. But there's also a little menace, a little titular amount of menace. Well, Oliver is kind of shitty throughout this whole book. Harry's best friend and bandmate, Harry. Hayes, you said Harry so many fucking times during this podcast. But no, he like fondles her back in the kitchen and says weird and creepy things to her throughout the whole book. And there's a little edge there where I was like, okay. It ends up coming to nothing, but it added an interesting element to, like, she's not super comfortable around all the guys, which was an interesting kind of dynamic to have. And then a 38% backyard dick gargle. She says his dick was in my mouth. It was perfect. Okay. And I was like, oh, okay. The feet tweet comments. He tweets out his feet to the Instagram followers, and it immediately has like 20,000 likes within like 2 minutes. I was like, that's pretty much our Instagram right there. Like,
yes, at Sibs Read Smut, 20K likes in a minute. Anytime.
Yeah. And I was like, and when Oliver was like creepily touching her, I was like, does every boy in this band have an older woman fetish?
Somebody compared that like with Oliver, like that the other boys are not as mature as Hayes, I guess was the
except for Oliver. Oliver is very mature, and they said that he was very mature. He's reading books the whole time.
Okay.
Like because he's trying to
we're not mature and we read a lot.
He's trying to fuck over Hayes because he found out that he banged his sister. And like I said,
which is immature.
I think they had some kind of sexual relationship in the past, and he's jelly. He's a super jelly.
Maybe, but I didn't get the vibe just because he reads a lot. I didn't catch the vibe that Oliver was like super mature. I do feel like what?
No, go ahead. No.
Well, the one argument I was reading was that Hayes is actually very mature for his age, and so like him and Selene being together actually would have made sense. And if they like. We were saying if they would have presented it positively, and they like actually really could have made this work if they wanted to, and they like did a few things differently. And I just think the other guys in the band like that was there to be a juxtaposition to like how mature Hayes is and like his friends are not there.
Yeah, but Oliver also had a long-term girlfriend for most of the book too.
Charlotte.
They ended up breaking up towards the end. But
she was a beard.
Yeah, but and then Celine's ex is shitty to her about like now the word's starting to get out a little bit that they were spotted by a mutual friend in the Hamptons, and he's like really shitty to her about, are you seeing this child? Whatever else.
Where he has like a live-in girlfriend and like he's dating some like young partner at his law firm.
20-ish. She's, what was it, 20, 28, 29 or something? Yeah. And she's pregnant. By the end, she's pregnant and they're getting married again, which I'm like, okay, dude, back the fuck off. Like, you're a dickhead.
Truly.
And then they're phone sexing a lot because they don't see each other for weeks at a time. So she's like, I dream about your dick. And I was like, okay. And then they're just realizing Oh, like it took them that long to realize, oh, by boning, they're going to hurt Isabel. Like, I think it was always in the back of her mind, but he didn't like realize that it was going to fuck up the daughter until
he
like down the
asked
line.
her a bunch. She was like, have you talked to Isabel yet? And she'd be like, no.
After this conversation, then he's like, I want to just tell everybody. I want to be upfront. I want to be out there. And she's the one that pumps the brakes on all this stuff. And he, I wrote this. I don't know in what context I wrote this line down, but I said he's the Daniel Boone of older lady poon, just hunting beaver all over the world.
Pew 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 pew
pew pew pew pew. Oh, I do love the alliteration and that's the rhyming scheme.
Sorry, Daniel Boone.
Oh man, and then he buys her a super expensive painting that she just said that she liked, and she's trying to run a business while all this is happening too, which is very hard for her. One of the reasons why her and her husband got divorced was because he did not support her going back to work, and he's constantly trying to drag her away from doing her job, and she's like, no, my business is very important to me. Don't like, and which kind of I don't even think we've got there yet. 43%. He raw dogs her on the Danish divorce table. Okay. And I said, I made a choice. He said, now I made a choice. So now he can just crotch blast her with no condos. And she's just like, okay. And she's so filled up during this time.
Oh, God. Okay.
And this is what it felt like to be fucked on art. Talking about the table. I'm like, okay.
You might need to just read some. If we're only at 43%, we might just need to read some sex chapters titles. Let's zoom to about 80%.
TMZ catches him in the Hamptons. They're at an art show. Her partner is like actively. He's like, hey, if I can buy a painting, will you let her run away with me today? And her co-owner of the art studio is like, yeah, go get it. And then she yells at her later about like, hey, I need you. I want you as a partner. I want you here with me at the business. And I'm like, you actively told her to go get laid. Like, what are you shitty about now? And then 45% in, Art showing off them titties. She wants to smell them again. It's closed door after the boob sucking. In Paris, she realizes that Hayes is falling in love with her. 49%, the truffle shuffle in the hotel lobby. She starts jerking him off before they even get into the room. And I was like, you couldn't wait 2 more feet until you're behind fucking closed doors? Like, honestly, come on. And yeah, okay. I was like, does this make her a bad mom? not telling the kid for so long about that she's fucking her idol and everything else.
I mean, I don't know what it means to be. I don't claim to be like the authority on parenthood, but I don't love that. I mean, I think it was a poor choice, maybe.
Well, and he's like, I'm like, at one point, I'm just like, he's acting like a fucking child. Oh, because he is. I'm like, 20-year-old might be of legal age, but you're still a fucking child. It's like,
maybe.
She's hesitant because of the age. Oh, the whole Rihanna, the whole his list of like people that he's flirted or had sex with, and she's like, I don't want to know, but like, have you slept with Rihanna? He's like, not for lack of trying. I'm not her type. Which made me laugh. And Daniel cancels plans again, and I was like, she was such a doormat at the beginning of this, where he's like, oh, I have a conference, I have work, so you have to take the girls, and if you're not going to take the girls, you have to break it to them that you're not going to take them on this. And it's like, and so she finally gets a little bit of a backbone, but then that sends Hayes into a tantrum, and I'm like, I use tantrum specifically because he's a fucking child.
Okay. He is a mature 20-year-old.
And on 56%, dipping a toe in the pond, just the shallow end. He's lightly fingering her in the driveway.
Okay.
And then Isabel finds out about Hayes while sperm is still swimming inside her. That's a direct quote.
My God.
Yuck. And Isabel is justifiably angry. And then Daniel the douche throws in her face that they're married. Then there's hand stuff in the Miami bar. Literally hand is 61% in hand stuff at Miami bar.
Very creative.
I was like,
wow.
what's the term for pocket pool when you're wearing a dress? I don't know. I think we need to create one.
No, I can't tell you.
No. Hayes slips out the "I love you" at the Miami art show. And the art partner is pissy now that this isn't just a fling for her to get some sex. Now she's like blah blah blah. And then she meets her parents. Celine meets Hayes' parents in New York at the premiere, and she flirts with his dad in the elevator. She also has some flirty banter with Oliver in here, which I thought was very weird. And then she realizes, oh, that's actually Hayes' dad. I guess we're not going to go on a run tomorrow. I guess I shouldn't tell you if I gave you my real room number. I'm like, so banging this 20-year-old dude is like opening her up to just flirting with whoever now. Okay, I guess.
And the
that's
dad's
a
honestly
choice.
Probably pretty close to her age. I mean,
yeah, they're of a like age. Yeah. And she meets Penelope for the first time, the first older woman that he banged. And Twitter comment. One of the Twitter comments she read about the relationship is that she's got a vintage vagina, which I thought was funny. And then 73% behind closed door weekend sexathon. They didn't really go into it a whole lot, but and then 74% is the catamaran conolingus, the boat boner beavering is what I called that one.
Okay,
and she drew him like one of your naked girls, like Titanic.
Like draw me like one of your French girls.
Draw me like one of your French girls or whatever. So that made me laugh. And then they get exposed to the world. And I mean, like we were saying, it's very episodic. It's very beat by beat by beat. And, then there's birthday sex and they talk about anal and, at some point just like, he's like, you're, do it in the butt by Leon Phelps. And then 81% dressed up ass play is another one in there. 88% hashtag love this dick. That's a direct quote from her. And the new song, that was one of the things where it's like the new song, their 7 minutes song is like a huge hit. They're up for a Grammy and whatever else. And everyone thinks it's a love song. It's actually about him trying to prevent a girl from throwing herself off of a fucking balcony in their hotel in Tokyo from last year. After he slept with her, he's like, you got to go, like, get the fuck out. And she wanted to throw herself off the fucking balcony, which was a little crazy.
Well, and he insinuated that, like, so then the first time they had sex or whatever intimate thing they were, she like was like, oh, this was so great. And then she like suddenly sits up. She's like, wait, we shouldn't have done this. This was bad. And so like she starts to have a freak out and she's like, I'm sorry, I'm freaking out. And he's like, I can't be with someone who freaks out. Like, you cannot freak out on me if this is not going to work if you are. And so she was like, okay, everything's okay. And so, but that was like a continuous thing, was like, he was like, please don't freak out. And then he freaked out a couple times, but not like as much. So, and then you come to find out later the song. And he is also like the singer-songwriter for August Moon. So like he obviously singer, but like he writes a lot of their songs. So I don't think all the guys are actually like involved in writing the songs. They're just they're pogo sticks to perform.
Well, and she's starting to get harassed in here too. And like there's some scary stuff that's going on with her on the internet and getting stuff mailed to her house. And there was another scene that was like telling, was he was pretty. We find out about this whole 7 minute song because there's a young girl out in the hallway who is banging on the door to another one of the bandmates' rooms, and her phone's dead. She's trapped in the hotel. She can't get a ride home. And it comes out that she's 16 and, as the mom and actually goes to her daughter's school and like, and she has like a sit down with the two boys that were involved with this underage girl. And they're like, and she's like, listen guys, like this could have turned into a big problem. You could be arrested for this. They're like, she had a school ID, and it's like, do better. And she kind of like mom scolds them on the plane. And I'm like, good for her. she's somebody's daughter, and he's like everyone's somebody's daughter. And Hayes has a very callous approach to the situation, which I thought was, I'm like, okay, maybe he's kind of used to it, but it was a little shitty. And then the last 30 minutes, like I said, is just fake crying over and over again. 98%. Keep it down. Isabel's home bang session, and everyone's still crying. And they have she at the end of the book, and it's a callback a couple times throughout, just says, I don't know if I love you. I think I just love the idea of you. And like she
like
brings that
title.
up, like the title. She brings it up again at the end to break up with him. Spoiler alert: they don't get together. They break up.
They are done.
She breaks up with him, sends him on his way, and the book just ends.
The book ends.
And
people were driven mad. The online response to this ending is so insane. Some people were like, this is so real. It's so honest. That's why this book is so good. And other people were like, I came here for a fucking happy ending and I didn't get it. And they're pissed. And they're all over Robin on Goodreads and on her page. Like, are you going to write a sequel? This sucked. I've been crying for days. It's like, oh my God, people are nuts. But what do you think of the ending? I mean, do you think this qualifies as romance? Tell me everything.
No, I don't think, because romance is archetypal, where they end up together, whatever else. This is honest. It's a true portrayal of probably what would happen in this actual situation.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, there's no fucking way that a 20-year-old and a 40-year-old are going to last long term, because he may want kids. She's like, oh, I don't know. Have you thought about if you want kids? And it's like, if you want to have a kid, we're going to have to start now. And I'm like, don't geriatric pregnancies start at 37? She would be well on the age of that's probably not going to happen. That's probably not in the cards for you guys. And obviously she probably should have done the right thing earlier on, because if you need to talk yourself into it that much, like I said, you're probably not doing the right thing. Was it real? Yes. Was it romance? I don't know.
Well, I think the fact that it was it was fan fiction is tossed around a lot with this book. I do feel like it qualifies much more as fiction. And because, to your point, I think it would have qualified as romance had it been told in a positive perspective. And did they end up together? I mean, there were definitely some romance tropes in this book that kind of might lead people to believe, okay, this is a romance novel.
Forbidden love, age gap romance, celebrity normie. There's a lot of tropes in there.
Yeah. And so I think having those in there puts it a toe in the romance
dipping a toe in that pond.
Dipping a toe in that pond. But at the end of the day, I think this lives as a fiction novel. And because it doesn't have the absolutes of a romance.
It doesn't hit all the notes. And I think some of that is this singular perspective is one, and that doesn't automatically disqualify it. But I think that it really limits the amount of story that you can tell. I think if we could have seen from his perspective a little bit more of this relationship, I think the ending would have hit harder. Because I was like, yeah, they're not going to get together. She was shit on this relationship the entire time. She was all down on herself and the relationship throughout the entire book. It was not a surprise to me that they did not get together in the end. It wasn't shocking to me at all. But I think if we could have heard from him a little bit more, the ending would have punched a little bit harder, because we would have seen his feelings on the matter and how deep his feelings were for her. I saw someone in one of the comments that I saw said she knew what his feelings were for her before he did. And I was like, I don't see that. I knew that I think that she knew that his feelings were running pretty deep, but he was pretty up fucking front with her about what he was feeling. I think she was lying to herself about what this whole situation was the entire time. And I think she knew very early on that this relationship couldn't go anywhere, but she was too in love with him to let him go. And then she ended up letting him go anyway and just hurt each other even more. It's like, you should have broken up with him after your first fuckfest and just been done.
Just put that notch in your belt and move on. Brag about it.
but fiction, yes, good fiction, well written fiction,
very well written. Yes,
she did a lot of great things in this novel, and would I recommend it? Yes. Would I say it's romance? Probably not. I mean, it's dirty. It's dirty enough. It has the sex quotient. I don't think I counted,
but not all
how many
smut
scenes
is.
There were.
I mean, not all romance is smut. I think most smut is romance.
Yeah,
but not this one.
Yeah.
So this definitely had a smut factor, but I would call it.
A medium plus smut factor, but romance tropes and there's books that can buck the trends like Book Lovers, but it's still within the romance archetype. Mm-hmm. This is one that bucks the structure, but also did not really take any of that structure into account.
Didn't bring it back in the end.
Yeah. And I think because the story was so disjointed that there wasn't a lot of room for it to breathe, because they bounced around from so many cities and they didn't see each other and the schedules are so crazy. Like, it's very hard to tell a story when they're not talking to each other for multiple weeks at a time.
My question to you, I just think the reason I loved this book so much, it hit for me in 2020, was like, I am a boy band girly. Like, I grew up on NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys, 98 Degrees, loved them. I just missed New Kids on the Block.
I almost hit Nick Lachey with my car one time accidentally.
Oh, okay. Well, that would have ruined things for me as a teen. Just kidding.
Well, I mean, this was in 2008, but yeah.
That would have been a sad day. But then
I worked with Joey Fatone too.
Oh, you did? That's right.
Yes.
You never introduced me.
The singing
How dare
bee.
you? But so I just think, and then like, I was way too old for One Direction. I was like well into my 20s when they were big. But I loved them. And I just still think that there's like so much
Wait, you were still in your 20s when One Direction came out? You weren't in your 30s?
I think it was in my late 20s. When were they big?
I have no idea.
2012?
I barely knew who Harry Styles was.
2016? Maybe, and in there, late 20s, early 30s. Regardless, I really enjoyed them. I just think there's so much fun and like vibrancy with a boy. Like, I enjoy pop music. I enjoy all that stuff. So for me, I was definitely not like a One Direction stan, but I really enjoyed their music. And there's some of their music was so popular that you couldn't, like Story of My Life, you still can't like watch a TV show and not hear that song at some point. And so I just think
sing a little bit for us. No, I'm kidding. Don't
Story of my life. I take her home.
And this podcast gets banned on YouTube.
This is a children's podcast. They're gonna fall asleep to that.
Stop saying that.
It's my favorite. Anyway, I say all that to put the context of like, I think I loved this book so much because it was like, I'm an older girly pop and I'm like, that like fantasy of like, I love
You're a crusty, tasty pop.
I have a vintage vagina and I was fully like, I forget it. I mean, I loved Justin was my favorite in Sinker. And I think
with that terrible hair.
I know. And like, kind of a terrible person now, but and then from the Backstreet Boys, everybody loved Nick Carter, but I liked the other one,
JC Chazé.
No, is he in? I don't know. Anyway, BSB is performing at the Sphere, and I'm gonna go.
Who?
The Backstreet Boys. Ned, keep up. They're in Vegas this summer, July 17th. I
do not care.
Anywho, all of this context to say that like I think that part of why I adored this book the first time I read it was because it's of a part of an interest of mine, of my history.
I love slapped because you love boy bands back in the day.
I loved boy bands. It was fun to think about like One Direction. Reminisce. And it's just fun to think about like what it, they're like I totally watched the One Direction like tour film where they like film them on tour and they're like pogo sticks. I just like, it felt so real to Thank you for performing Bye Bye Bye. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I didn't want to sing it out loud because they I don't want to have to pay the fees.
You idiot. What we should have done is frost your tips for this.
Oh, yuck.
That would have made it. Anyway, I say all that because I'm asking you, not giving a shit about boy bands at all and probably not wanting to date like a 20-year-old pop star. Did it not hit for you because it's just like a complete uninterest of you? Like there's just no category where this would be a book that you would pick up if I didn't make you.
Yeah. I would not have. This was a virginal reading for me, as we mentioned last week. I had not read this book before. This was the first time reading for me. No, I probably would not have read this unless you had put it on the list. Was I surprised with her writing and that this is her initial, dipping her toe into the writing pool? Yes, I was. Yeah. And I was pleasantly surprised. Yeah. The content of said story, I could take or leave. The whole boy band thing, the older woman, younger man, the ending, there's a lot of things in here that I just
didn't tickle your fancy.
Didn't blow my skirt up. And that's fine. I would still say it might be worth a read if you enjoy, like Helen, like you were mentioning, the boy band era, the fame, the fame normie, kind of trope. If you like that sort of stuff, then this book could be infinitely interesting to you. But it's just none of this really, was appealing to my interests, other than the art and the scenery. That was well written and so great, but
to your point,
it's not a great reason to read an entire book.
To your point too, I think you bringing up Broken French, I think those were both COVID reads for me where like you couldn't travel, you couldn't do shit. Like I worked in a hospital, like there was just not like a lot of option to like go around the world. And so I think the comparison to Broken French of the scenery of like feeling like you are traveling the world with these people was a smash for me.
The escapism, for sure.
Yes, 100%. Especially, I think I read it in like August of 2020, and it's just like, okay, what else could I do besides like lay on my back deck and read a book? Like there was nothing else. So I loved it. And I think at this point, I didn't need to read it again. I didn't love it as much the second time, but also I knew the ending and I've seen the movie. And so I didn't need, like that first time really hit for me. If you've gotten this far in the podcast,
would you recommend it this time
for you?
Yeah, would you recommend it this time? Yeah,
but to my like friends who I know have like a similar interest palette
to the general public, Helen, all the millions of people that are listening to our podcast, the Gen
population,
prison Gen Pop,
prison Gen Pop.
Would you recommend it to a prisoners book group?
Honestly, yes, I think they would love it.
They'd love the escape. As she almost knocks her mic over while she's gesticulating.
Listen, our jokes are so funny.
Holy shit. Do you know what we're reading next week?
Literally no clue.
We are reading The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood.
Ali Hazelwood.
Another one of our faves. As you might recognize throughout all of our books in this first season, we are reading mostly our favorites, ones that we've tickled our fancy already.
Read before,
but Ali Hazelwood is up there on our list of authors we've read. We've read a lot of her stuff. Yeah. And Love Hypothesis is one of our favorites. We will be diving deep into that pond next week.
Diving into the deep end of Ali Hazelwood's books. Get it? That's a play because it's her new book.
Oh, yeah, with the diving team.
The
fiasco.
Diving fuckers.
Yeah.
Diving kink.
Diving kink. All right, so next week is Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. If you're liking our bullshit, please rate, subscribe, do all that dumb shit, and generally shower us with praise. And I think that's it. Thank you for listening. Tune in next week, smutters.
Stay smutty.
Stay smutty.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.